80s heat, 80s heat, friendship, laughs, and camaraderie.
Okay, we are rolling. This is episode 6 of the 80s Heat podcast. You might notice there's a... Oh, you've done it already, kicking shit over.
We warned him,
but didn't lay out the ground rules yet. So
yeah, I said don't kick stuff over.
Oh.
Watch your feet.
He's already spilled his beer, and now he's knocking stuff over. It's almost as bad as the guy that's always late.
Well, I'm not at fault until you've laid out the ground rules, and then I'll follow the rules.
Okay.
Right now, there's no rules.
Okay, don't kick the table.
Don't kick the table.
Don't knock stuff over.
Okay.
Don't put your drinks on the table. Don't spill shit on the table or on my gaming systems.
And not on the floor.
And definitely not on the floor, because yeah.
Can we look at the video game consoles?
Look, we don't touch.
Yeah, we can look, but we can't touch.
What if we're about to spill our beer, and the only way to prevent the beer from being spilled is by touching this?
He's got a point.
Because then you've got a situation where you could save one, might lose the other, but by doing nothing,
I'd rather you lose your beer than me get those wet or destroyed.
But you should get it passed, so you shouldn't be disciplined in any way, shape, or form.
I think so. Yeah.
Anyway, this is episode 6. Welcome, guys. Lots to discuss today. As you might have noticed, there's going to be a little bit of an old school video games theme by the little setup here, which Jake's already tried to destroy on more than one occasion.
Well, now I know the rules, right?
Now you know the rules.
I know the ground rules.
Yeah. So, yeah, welcome back. You'll notice as well that I'm clean-shaven, and you've just got a mustache.
Well, it's Movember. I decided to do the Movember thing, and then I'll probably shave this off fairly quick after that. But I figured the world of 80s Heat needs to see me with a mustache just once.
I mean, you do rock a really good mustache.
I do grow.
It's very thick and...
Bristling,
Just
yeah.
Probably steer clear of playgrounds for a little bit,
like a privet hedge.
You know, I kid you not. I was at home the other day, and I looked at my wife and I went, "Hello."
Did you ask her if she wanted a mustache ride?
Oh dear.
How far are we into the episode?
Yeah. I was about to make a wholesome joke that my family could watch. But Jake's already, as he does, he kind of
she declined,
derails you mid punchline, and then sullies it with his
words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom.
Yes, words of. Yeah.
So we're all just gonna have to wonder what I was about to say. This is.
Well, carry on.
No, it's too.
Yeah,
you've ruined it.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm clean-shaven is it's a big day for us today. Like, right after we film this podcast, we've got our Halloween Heat, which is different from the Halloween edition of the 80s Heat podcast. This is the once-a-year thing. It's like where we all get together around this time of year. We all dress up in, like, costumes that are appointed to us, and there's a theme. So these guys don't know who I am, and I don't know who these guys are, but there's a whole surprise thing going on. So that's why I'm clean-shaven. My character is clean-shaven.
It's like the Super Bowl, Taylor Swift, and Christmas all rolled into one.
And bigger than all. And bigger than all of them.
And bigger than all.
Yeah.
I'm not a big T-Swizzle fan, but for a
T-Swizzle?
A pop culture. That's what people call her. Oh. I've learned more. I'm a big football guy. I've learned more about Taylor Swift in the last month because she's dating a football player than I ever cared to know. But I've learned a lot.
Yeah, like she put Travis Kelce on the map, right? Isn't that what?
Yeah, that's the low hanging fruit joke.
And I grabbed it and I ripped it off.
You ripped it off and you took a big bite. Big bite.
It was delicious.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and we're going to get right into it. But first order of business, actually, I just want to congratulate Jake on the. He didn't win, but the strongman competition, the 80s Heat strongman competition. 3 of the 80s Heat members participated in a powerlifting competition. Jake was one of the 3. There was Jake, Claude, and John, who you guys are yet to meet. You will eventually. Claude took the title, but Claude's just ridiculous.
I think we all knew Claude.
Claude is an absolute beast, but Jake came in 2nd place, and man, some of the weights you lifted were crazy. So
I got some old man strength.
Props.
McEwen wouldn't show up. Marky wouldn't show up.
We all know why. You didn't want to feel inferior.
Sure, if that's what you guys want to say. And I, for one,
that's how we feel.
I, for one, do not congratulate you, Jacob.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
Why is that?
Because
we're not giving out participation.
This isn't 2023's Heat where everybody gets a ribbon. There was only 3 of you. The guy that finished 3rd is like 1,000 years old, and you finished 2nd.
Well, have you seen the size of Claude? I wasn't going to be able to compete with Claude.
Well, exactly.
He's got coming out of his ears.
You didn't win 2nd.
Well,
you lost 1st.
And do you know, like, what does Ricky Bobby say? Like, if you ain't first, you're last.
That's true.
I don't agree with that. Jake did really good. He was doing some
really well.
He was doing some bent over rows, and with so much weight on it, he broke the freaking machine.
Yep.
That's the kind of weights this guy was lifting.
You
did well, man. You did well. So I just want to
appreciate it.
Oh,
and I also appreciate your constructive criticism.
There's a difference.
I suck.
No, there's a difference. I am happy to say, hey, you did good, kid. But to congratulate you,
good kid tries hard. Bottom 3rd.
Bottom 3rd. Well, actually, John finished bottom 3rd. John finished bottom. But again, you're gonna meet John, and like this. What he joined 80s Heat, but he thought it was 1880s Heat. That's how old he is.
And he's always angry.
He's pretty damn old.
He's always
pretty
angry.
old.
He's a grumpy old guy. He doesn't smile often.
No. We call him Johnny Vinegar.
Johnny Vinegar, or Johnny V, when
Johnny
we're feeling particularly jovial.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one other thing, one of our viewers actually made a comment on one of the videos. I told you about it earlier, and I just want to give this person a shout out because they schooled me on horror. They fact checked me and they schooled me.
Yeah. Possible.
No, it happened. So, classical music, 1175. Well done, man. So it was in the episode 4 when I'm talking about how great Halloween is, and I'm saying that Michael Myers is widely considered as like the godfather of slashers, masked slashers, which most people consider him to be that.
Sure, they might say Norman Bates for slasher originally.
Yeah, exactly.
But
masked stalker slasher. Yeah. Again, like, and I stand by. There would be no Ghostface in Scream. There would be no Jason Voorhees, probably, if it wasn't for Michael Myers. But I did say there would be no Leatherface. Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out 4 years prior to the 1978 classic, so I got schooled.
And it was
based
off of Ed Gein, who also inspired Buffalo Bill and Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs.
I didn't even know that. Oh my god, I'm just getting schooled left, right, and centre here.
In the basket.
Anyway, classical music, 1175. Well done, man.
Well, I'm impressed.
But
I'm impressed you got schooled. I wouldn't be surprised if I got schooled, but I'm impressed that you got schooled.
Yeah, but it's
also your shit.
Yeah, well, I like to think so, but I don't know everything about everything horror, right? But I'm just a huge fan of the genre.
So just do better.
I'll try and do better, but I love it. Like I love if people fact check us and they're commenting, they're engaging with the video. It shows that they're involved.
Yep.
And he made a comment. Other than that, the rest of the video was like great. Like, but I like that engagement. So guys, like, feel free, like, comment below on it, and feel free to fact check us on anything we say because we don't know everything.
Well, let's preface something
here we go.
Feel free to fact check us. I'd suggest it's a little less of an accomplishment if you fact check Jacob over there.
I dare you.
Oh yeah.
I dare you to try to fact check me.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm always right, and you're never going to convince me otherwise.
It's true.
I can be convinced otherwise. I changed my mind in the match between Thunderlips and Rocky there.
Rocky,
yeah.
Touche.
You changed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't happen very often. Jake Logic, hashtag Jake Logic, is rock solid. It doesn't budge very often.
It doesn't budge. No. Yeah, it's yeah. Anyway, we have a video games theme. Marky, would you like to say a couple of words about the video games theme?
Video games theme. Well, no card-carrying member of the 80s doesn't remember the glory that was video games. So if you're an 80s kid, like, you probably dabbled in some Atari, but when the world changed was when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out.
Now you're playing with power.
This bad boy.
You touched it. You're allowed to touch it.
It's my goddamn machine.
Well,
I put it there.
What if I did the same thing you did?
Well, the ground rules, remember, you're not allowed to touch it. Look, but don't touch. What's the point in like laying down ground rules if you just like 5 minutes later forgets them?
Yep.
What's the point?
Well, in his defense, at no point did you specify I'm allowed to.
Yeah, so you just changed the rules.
I think that's a given, isn't it?
How do we know they weren't Emma's?
Because you know Emma.
I do.
Okay.
Anyway.
So Ian can touch it, but we can't.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
So carry on.
So the Nintendo was kind of the game changer for it all, and I remember, like I still remember, if anybody has to ever ask me my fondest Christmas memory, it was Christmas about '88, I would say, and my parents got my brother and I the Nintendo Entertainment System, and they did that whole gimmick like that's what my brother and I wanted. We're like, we want Nintendo, please, Santa, Nintendo, Mom, Dad. Nintendo, aunts, uncles, grandparents, neighbors, milkmen, just get us a Nintendo.
Yeah.
And my parents did that whole gimmick where, well, looks like all the presents are done. Let's go have some breakfast. And my brother and I are kind of like,
oh.
planning how to burn the house down?
Yeah. It's like, they've made a powerful enemy. And then all of a sudden my dad does the old, oh wait. There's one more.
Completely forgot.
And my brother and I unwrap the Nintendo Entertainment System. And I remember before that, you actually had to rent a Nintendo.
Yeah,
you'd go to the store, and the video game store, at least in Canada.
Really? Yeah, you'd rent the console.
And you could rent, so like maybe 2 times a year prior to when we got one. It would be like a special event, like my birthday or my brother's birthday or New Year's Eve. My mom would take us to the store, and we would rent a Nintendo, and then we'd each get to pick out one game, and it was the greatest thing in the world. And then we had our own, and it was great. And then, then they just kept coming.
Yeah. And
I find it nuts that we have the Nintendo 64, and it's considered a retro game now.
Yeah.
Because it seems new to me, but it's not.
I was 16 years old.
Yeah, man.
So I remember like that was the OG. That was a big deal to have the original Nintendo console. But then as the years moved on, you would have to commit, because then Sega Genesis came out, Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx 16. And unless you came from a wealthy household, which I didn't, you had to pick one, and you had to get in one camp, at least with me and my friends. So I went all in with Sega Genesis, and I was a Sega Genesis guy, but my buddies were Super Nintendo guys. And well, we'd have it out every once in a while.
It was like WCW versus WWF.
Yeah. So, but you couldn't. I mean, unless you're a rich kid that could afford to have all of them, including the TurboGrafx 16. But I would say the TurboGrafx 16 was the lesser of the 3.
Yeah, it didn't have a big run. Sega Genesis had a good little run there.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog, which is still big. It's still a money-making character to this day.
Right here, yeah.
But yeah, I was primarily Nintendo. I owned a Sega Genesis at one point. We had a Sega Genesis, not a Super Nintendo.
Okay.
But then we found ourselves gravitating to the Super Nintendo anyway. Like my buddy had a Super Nintendo. We'd actually trade. We'd trade Sega Genesis for Super Nintendo. So I always fancy myself a Nintendo guy.
So you were on the other side of the tracks, though.
I was. Like I was a jet and you were a shark, man.
Boy, yeah. Bring
sports reference?
West Side Story, man. Come on.
Sharks
and
jets. How did it work in the UK? That's a whole different.
Well, first of all, in the UK, that is not a Genesis. If you look at it, it says Mega Drive on it, and it doesn't say Genesis.
Story checks out. It says Mega Drive.
So in the UK, that's the Sega Mega Drive. So this was my first one. Again, like it was either 88 or 89. I can't remember. But the reasons I've got these specific games here, these are the games that I got with them. So I got the original.
You got Turtles with your Nintendo?
Well, I got it for Christmas. That came in the package.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers, the original.
With the gun.
Yours didn't come with Duck Hunt.
I didn't. It didn't have Duck Hunt.
Well, ours came with Duck Hunt here in Canada.
That must have been because we were North American.
Maybe
they didn't want the youngins having.
No, they don't like guns in the
UK.
UK.
No, we had that, and we also had the Rob the Robot thing. Remember that? Rob the
No.
Robot?
No?
I don't remember Rob the Robot?
What that is.
Will you be the one to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment System? The one to play with Rob, the extraordinary video robot, batteries not included. He helps you tackle even the toughest challenge. Will you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt or action-packed Hogan's Alley and high-flying Kung Fu, each sold separately? Will you be the one to experience the Nintendo Entertainment System? Comes with Rob, Zapper, Control Deck, 2 controllers, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt.
Comment below if you remember Rob the Robot. It was super. Yeah, it was a thing. But no, mine just. We did have the double pack with Duck Hunt and the light gun and Mario, but I just got the one with Mario, and then I got this for Christmas, and then my mum and dad bought me this separate, the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, because they wouldn't allow it to be called Ninja over there, because that was a violent word.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles.
Wow.
So you were woke in the UK, but
woke before woke was cool. Yeah.
Ninja's a little violent. Ninja's a little too violent.
And like that, I just spent so.
So was it called like Hero Gaiden?
No, we had Ninja Gaiden. I don't know why.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Anyway.
The Beverly Hills Hero.
Mike Tyson's out. You can't say much.
Can't say much of it, okay?
But like 2 amazing games, like that one, like I spent so many hours on that Super Mario Bros. The original, like it's an absolute classic. And then and this to this day, Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. I've never ever completed this game,
and you never will.
No, that freaking water level with the
you
bombs.
never will.
And seaweed.
And the electric seaweed. Yeah. That's like anxiety.
Yeah.
Like,
can you imagine? I don't think they ever did a proper study or tallied up the amount of damage, but the amount of drywall patches that parents had to do when their kids were trying to get through the water level and not touching the electric seaweed, and the amount of controllers that were thrown against the wall.
I threw a controller against the wall.
But those controllers can take it.
But I feel like you in the UK handled that better than us in North America. Actually had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because we were a lot more violent.
It was just violent,
the names of the games. And you guys were very wholesome and self-contained, and you handled conflict well.
I'm not so sure I did as a kid, you know.
No.
And then Sonic the Hedgehog was the game that came with my Mega Drive. I got that for one of my birthdays, and then I remember the day in 1996 that I got this N64 with Super Mario 64, and like to this day, like literally, it's up there with my wedding day. It was one of the greatest days of my life.
You better get that out of the podcast.
No. My wife knows a place, and she admires honesty, and I'm honest. It's one of the greatest days of my life. Super Mario 64, it's incredible.
Yeah,
I remember I lined up outside the store. It was a store called Dixon's. Isn't it? No, D-I-X. Oh, Jesus. A store called Dixon's in Oldham in Lancashire, England. And I lined up outside that store. I had my reservation. I put some money down on it, like £20, I believe it was. And my mum and I, we lined up outside like before the store opened, and came away with that and Super Mario 64. Do not put that down on it. Jake!
What? I didn't touch nothing. That was not in the rules. You can't change the rules. You've already laid out.
All right. Okay.
I'm getting anxiety.
You just watch.
You will not spill.
Yeah. You know, these koozies were a great idea.
Yeah.
You've said that multiple times.
I've got this Superman koozie. The Superman koozie is indestructible.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Well, you know what? Let's dive into it.
Yep. Let's do it.
We are going to give a little breakdown. We'll go like 3, 2, 1. We'll do round table of our favorite 3 video games of all time.
Start with the third?
Let's start with number 1 and lower the climax as we go, Jake. It's great psychology.
Climax.
Dixon climax. Oh, man. So, number 3 video game of all time. Let's start with Jacob Montgomery.
Does it have to be 80s?
Yeah, I think it should.
Or is it just
of
all time?
I when I planned, I went 80s. But I mean, we've got a display here. I mean, if Mario 64 is within your heart, like fill your boots, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's definitely like I had a specific honorable mention.
Yeah.
That I was going to throw in that wasn't 80s.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll do what you want. I've got both, by the way. I've got my three of all time and my 3 80s.
That's fine. Let's start with the big man, big dog, Jacob
so
Montgomery.
My number 3 was Blades of Steel, the
Respect.
hockey game, and I spent so many hours playing that game, and it was simple to play. I gave you my rant a couple podcasts ago about how complex and complicated controllers have got nowadays, and I tried playing a current day hockey NHL game with my boy a couple months ago, and I was just a total disaster because it is so complicated now, and I'm not even going to get
It's too complicated.
But it was great. Blades of Steel, if you wanted to get into a fight, you just ram up against the guy a couple times, you just skate up to him, go boom, 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 and then all of a sudden you're throwing fists.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice and easy. Throwing fists, and it was just such a good game. It was so easy to play. That's my number 3.
And when you'd score a goal, everybody would gather around you and be like, eh.
Yeah.
The one thing that drove me crazy about that game, and I remember that game, it wasn't licensed, because back then, like some of these games weren't even licensed by the National Hockey League. Yeah. So they couldn't say Edmonton Oilers. You'd just be called Edmonton. Yeah. And Edmonton was green. And that just pissed me off, because it's like, red on green. That was a great game. Hartford Whalers or
Minnesota North Stars.
North Stars. Represent. Yeah. Okay. Go next, buddy.
Okay, so if I'm allowed to do greatest video games of all time, because I have got my 80s, but I'll just go with all time for now. Number 3 would be Gears of War 2 on the Xbox 360. The original Gears of War was the reason that I got an Xbox. I saw a buddy of mine back in England playing this, and the graphics on it were just incredible. Third-person cover shooter, like something I'd never seen before. And then all the guys were like running around and bantering with each other, and just it was just so satisfying to hear the guns go off and and the splatter of the alien guys. And it was just so awesome. But then Gears of War 2 came out, and it just had better weapons, like better graphics, better sound, music. The multiplayer was amazing. It was like one of only 2 games that I've been addicted to multiplayer, because I'm a campaign guy. I like to do solo stuff.
Yeah.
But Lone Wolf.
Lone Wolf, yeah. I'm not a sociable gamer. But this was one of those things. Like every other night, I'd be like crack a couple of beers or whatever, and just put my headset on, and I'm chirping some 11-year-old in the US or something. And
that's good.
Saying I'll probably do things to his mom and stuff like that, and it was a good time.
See, this is why they should have. This is why they should have included the violence in the titles of the video games.
You know what?
In the UK growing up, because when you deprive kids of something, then they just go overboard with wanting it.
There's probably some kid in Kentucky right now that's had like a case open about this guy.
He's just in a straitjacket in a cell like this.
I'm just going to throw in my honorable mention.
Yeah.
So now your number 3.
So just really quick, because I want to take a lot of time on my honorable mention, but because I didn't consider it 80s, Street Fighter 2, man.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 2, really quick. I remember every single time me and my buddies would go anywhere, like a mall, but just whatever. Mm-hmm. We'd go and we'd look for the arcade, and we'd look for Street Fighter 2, and we would just play that game till the cows came home. I love Street Fighter 2, not in my top 3 due to the criteria or what my criteria was.
Well, that's gone out the window because you just...
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm going to stick with my 3. So love and respect to Street Fighter 2, and chances are he's going to talk about it later anyway.
Yeah. Did you pick any 80s games?
I told you I've got my 3 80s games.
So believe it or not, this is kind of how I picked my 3 games. So Ian's got a buddy, and he makes these retro pies, and it's like a console, and it gives you, like, I'm not kidding,
like a little Android box.
Every freaking game you can ever imagine pre-96. You name the game, it's on there. Arcade, Neo Geo, Atari, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx 16. You want it, it's there. So what I kind of did was I had one, broke on me, not because of poor quality that was made, but just my kid wrecked it. And I thought, what were the games I went right to? And that would be a pretty strong indicator that those were my favorites.
Street Fighter's always my first. If I go into a retro game system, have you got Street Fighter? Yeah.
But you know what really surprised me? And this one I might get a little bit of a ribbing for. But number 3, Dr. Mario.
Oh, respect.
We once had a video games tournament at ATC, and you rocked it.
That's a good game.
You are good at that.
Very good at Dr. Mario. Yeah. So I am not my father.
Whose phone's going off?
Oh, it's probably mine way in the background there.
Yeah, same guy that spilled his beer earlier. And of course, it's like
for the record, it wasn't me that spilled the beer. I was actually on the other side of the room.
Like he does it on purpose. He waits till it's old Brian's turn to talk and has to hijack me. But so my father is a very skilled man when it comes to games of strategy, like place here, strategize, and everything else. My father was actually nationally ranked in the game of chess. My father's like freaking won Tetris. And anyway, I'm not near his equal. But I too enjoy those games, and I'm better than the average Joe at them.
Yeah.
And I love Dr. Mario. I could play that game forever. I could do level 20, medium, sometimes even high, and frickin' beat the thing. And it's got such a repeat playability for me because it's a game of strategy.
Yeah.
Game of strategies tend to have a long shelf life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you win it. But can I win it again? Can I win it faster? So number 3, Dr. Mario. I love that game.
That's awesome. But I never played it because this was all I ever played. Very similar. Tetris,
man.
Oh yeah, it's pretty old school. Yeah.
Tetris.
And this Game Boy, I bought this off my good buddy Dave. Hi, Dave. Back in England for £20, he sold it to me, and with a whole bunch of games that are in that case.
What's £20 here?
£20 will probably be about $30 ish.
He gave you a good deal.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it still works.
I still have my old Game Boy. I still have it. We still play it. All right. Number 2.
And number 2. So this brings me back to growing up in Winnipeg there. And there was this arcade called Magic Land that me and my buddies would go to when we were young bucks. And it was in downtown Winnipeg. You'd go. It was an arcade, but it was a little unique because you'd pay however much up front. And then all the games were rigged so that you wouldn't have to use quarters or coins. You pay to get in.
Nice.
You get unlimited lives. And you could just keep hitting like the reset button. Like if you ran out of lives, you just press a button, you get all your lives back. And so you could actually beat games. So you'd go there. And there was this little hunchback guy that ran the place, and he kind of reminded me of Smithers because he's sitting there. He's like, "Hello, children," as the kids came in.
Jake, what Smithers are you referring to?
From The Simpsons, right?
That's Mr. Burns.
Oh, Mr. Burns. Okay.
Or maybe you were thinking of Lurch from the Addams Family.
Well, this guy was like the hunchback of Notre Dame.
See, this is why we say it's not as big of a deal if you correct Jake.
Well, you just did, and I accepted that. Mr. Burns I'm talking about. I don't know who brought up Smithers. But anyways, so this hunchback's working at the door there. You pay your money, you get in. And then I'll get into the game that I loved and that I've selected as my second choice. But I always laugh because at the back of the arcade, there is a game. We're all young teenage boys, like freaking testosterone's raging out of control. And there's this game. I can't remember if it was a pinball video game. But anyways, when you were successful and you achieved whatever goal you needed to achieve, there is this picture of a woman at the top of the game, and every time you achieved a goal, a piece of the puzzle would get removed, and you'd eventually, it was a naked woman underneath, so you'd have all these guys at the back of the arcade, like probably all rocking diamond cutters, because like back in that day, right? Back in that day, we had to rely on the Sears catalog, or if you were lucky enough to find your dad's Playboy that was hidden between the mattresses. Like that's all we had. We didn't have the internet, right? So we would go and.
Are you embarrassing your father on our podcast, Jacob?
Oh yeah, well, most dads had a freaking Playboy hidden back in the day.
I never knew my dad to be in possession of a Playboy. It was way too wholesome.
My father as well. And I'd never speak poorly of my father on a podcast.
Me neither.
I basically just said my dad's a genius on the podcast Jake's talking about his dad's porn collection.
No, your dad. So yeah, exactly, and I appreciate that. He taught me a lot of things by leaving his Playboy in an easy to find spot. But regardless, I kind of went off on a rant there.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
But the reason I brought that up is
still hasn't gotten to the game.
They had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, and you could have 4 players playing at one time. I don't know if you remember that game.
Was that the Turtles in Time one?
I don't know.
Have you segued to a completely different game?
No. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, not this one.
Was April O'Neil undressing?
No. Yeah,
there
was none of that.
This is the second game he's talking
about.
No,
I'm talking about my second game. The porn game wasn't my second game.
Okay.
Thanks for prefacing that, Jake.
That was a good game, but it wasn't my second pick. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, is my second pick.
Respect.
And I love that game because you could play it, and it was a good bonding experience with other kids. So you and your buddy would be sitting there, and you'd pick 2 of the turtles, and then some other nerdy kid would come up, and he'd look at you, and he was like, "Gonna play?" You'd just kind of give him the wink, and like, get on it.
Well, he's an asset. You can take on more foot soldiers.
He's helping you. So it was an amazing bonding game, and you would meet kids just by playing a game like that. And it was a very difficult game.
It was.
But it was amazing. I've got great experiences of that, which reminds me of Magic Land with the creepy old guy that had the porn video games in the back. The more I talk about it, the more I think this guy's probably like running a sex den or something.
And he was clearly hunchback. So, Jacob. Who is your turtle of choice?
Donatello.
Respect.
Every single time.
He had good range.
Yeah. And going back to the original game, I think every kid picked Donatello.
Well, Raphael.
Size. I used to, and his had Raphael's in that game are the shortest range because they had the little size, but they were the most powerful. Like they caused the most damage. But I think so. Yeah. Fact check me. I don't know.
Maybe in Hero Turtles.
Maybe in Hero Turtles. Maybe in the British Hero Turtles.
Like that Donatello was well hung and had good reach. But Raphael he was working with not as much.
No.
And he wasn't a grower either, nor was he a shower. He was just he just had his little size, and
he just had a little bit of a turtle poking.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Number 2.
My number 2. You already brought it up. This could have very easily been number 1.
And this is why I didn't even talk about it too much, because I know this man.
Street Fighter 2. Yeah. Street Fighter 2. And you can fact check me on this, and you won't win. But revolutionized fighting games. Like it was so groundbreaking, and it's still to this day it's one of the highest grossing video games of all time.
Yeah,
I love it. I mean, I think and I'm going to step out of the way so that your collection's kind of on display as you talk.
I have a whole bunch. I have more than this. I've got Zangief behind the camera, and I've got in storage. I've got like an E Honda and a couple of others, Balrog or whatever. But yeah, I love me some Street Fighter 2. So we come back.
I can come back.
Would you always pick Ken or Ryu?
Guile. I was always Guile.
Guile.
In Street Fighter, the original Street Fighter 2, and then there was the Turbo and the Champion Edition. Right, they just kept adding on to that one game rather than making a new game. They made it faster, and then you could
T-Hawk and Fei Long and
Tammy that was DJ. Super Street Fighter 2. Yeah. But they just kept adding to it. But like the original, the World Warrior, was just so good. And it was one of those games that whenever I went into an arcade, it was that was the only game I was looking for.
Oh, you'd have a crowd of kids.
Yeah.
You just look for the crowd, and you know that's what Street Fighter was.
Winner stays on, right? Mm-hmm. So that you'd call them quarters here, but we had a stack of like 50 pence pieces or whatever that you put on the machine itself. And then you'd say, right, I'm next, there's my coin kind of thing. And you just put it on. And then like whoever lost, he's off there. You go into the player 1 or 2 position, and then you're fighting. And it was just and then you'd be chirping at each other as you're doing it. And like just spamming each other with Hadoukens and Sonic Booms. And like, I was always Guile because I just loved Guile. It was kind of overpowered, I thought. But I had a bit of a technique going with him.
Street Fighter 2 is incredible.
So I did. And that is the reason my Super Nintendo isn't on display now. It's actually still in England. I still own all of my video games consoles. I'll never ever get rid of any of them.
So you're pretty good at that game. Were you the guy that was always winning and probably had all the young girls hanging around him? And like, did you have a robe, like a boxing robe that you wear in? And just toss it off and just line up with the freaking control pads there and just bring it on.
Yeah, it was
got like a really good-looking girl, like giving him like a long straw with a glass of water
into a milkshake. Yeah,
you have like a street name.
I had those little like candy cigars, like little candy smokes.
Won't see those in 2020 either.
No. But yeah, like that really got me out to the arcades, and I just fell in love with arcades because of that game. And then I started exploring other games, but that was always the first game I gravitated to.
Great.
Yeah, and 1991 that was. So it's not 80.
It's not a young game.
But what a great year 1991 was. Terminator 2, my favorite movie of all time.
Now, before we go on to my number 2, one of the great travesties in the history of cinema. Now, you imagine.
Oh, I know what's coming.
Imagine, people, you're growing up with Street Fighter 2. And I mean, you've heard me speak of it passionately, and these other fellas here, and it's like, they're making a movie. Oh my gosh, this can't get any better. There is nothing that's going to be greater than this. It's going to star Jean-Claude Van Damme as Guile,
my favorite character.
And you're thinking to yourself, this is impossible to screw up.
Yeah.
And they did. That movie, that they need to remake. Like look, I mean, the original Mario movie was terrible. Well, they finally frickin' made a renew one, and it was the second biggest movie of the year.
Yeah. Make
a Street Fighter 2 movie. Like just the nostalgia factor, people will come out in droves. And if you just have some good fight scenes and some cool characters...
Yeah. They should have built it around E-Honda.
Yes, Jake.
That would have been phenomenal. The sumo wrestler could have 100 heads slapped all the bullets away, right? He'd show up in his little... I don't know what sumo wrestlers wear.
I know the word, but I...
They don't wear much. But he could have waddled out into the friggin' battlefield there and just started 100 hands slapping.
And yet he was kind of ripped, though. Like E-Honda was ripped.
Yeah, he had a 6-pack on top of. He was probably on growth hormone.
Oh, I meant to get it out here. Actually, I brought my. This is and this was the reason I bought a Super Nintendo. But when I bought a Super Nintendo, this is a Street Fighter cartridge. Remember how they came
back? Yep.
They came with
the instruction manuals. Yeah.
And you do all the moves in there.
Yeah.
Your Super Nintendo games are shaped differently.
Don't touch it.
Oh, are they?
You almost broke.
Yeah,
they're
shaped differently.
Jake, they're shaped a little different, aren't they? Just a little, but they're different. And we didn't have this ripple on the back either.
Oh, you didn't?
No, ours were a bit more boxy. Yours are a bit more streamlined.
We see how it says Super Nintendo PAL version. I think that was like a European thing. PAL? PAL? That was like a European version.
Everything's so friendly there.
I know, yeah.
Hello there, hero and PAL.
So it comes in a box like this because this came with my Super Nintendo and it was just the cartridge and the book.
Oh.
So it didn't come with a case. So I made my own case. So this is like little Ian in 1991, 11 years old, making his little cardboard case and putting his little stickers, which I think I got with some kind of like Nintendo magazine or whatever. And then with that Nintendo magazine, I got some like little like trump cards of Street Fighters.
Really?
There's right there.
He's not letting me touch any of them.
And then some postcards.
He's not letting me touch any of them.
Oh boy, Case.
I'm honored.
Anything goes now.
This was the guy that I wanted to be my favorite. I wanted Blanket to be my favorite because I just liked how he looked.
He's awesome.
But I was never good with it.
Electrified,
I was good with E-Honda. I didn't want E-Honda to be my favorite. My number 2.
Yep. Go ahead.
Freaking hard ass game. But man, did I love it. I spent a ton of time, and this was one of the games I hopped right to when I got my Raspberry Pi. Punch-Out.
Oh, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yeah, it was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and then Mike Tyson got like arrested and charged and put in jail for rape.
Yeah, we talked about that last podcast.
So they turned it into, I think it was Mr. Wonderful, wasn't it? And it was basically just Mike Tyson, but they changed his pigmentation. But Punch-Out was so much fun, and what really surprised me was I went and I put Punch-Out into the Pi. And just instantaneously, I remembered everybody's calls and all the little secrets. Like, remember you'd fight Don Flamingo? And if you just kept going A, B, A, B, he'd never stop you.
Yep.
And I just remembered everything. I'm like, oh yeah, Piston Honda, watch the eyebrows. Von Kaiser, look for the head. E-Tiger, the jewel's gonna go off. And it just, everything came right back to me. And all of those characters were so funny. Like, I remembered all of them. Glassjaw, Von Kaiser, Piston Honda, King Hippo. Yeah. Like Soda Popinski.
What was the show that King Hippo got a big push in?
Oh,
he made a TV
Captain
show.
N. Captain N?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of Nintendo characters, and King Hippo got the push.
Yeah. But yeah, I know Punch Out, and it was, there was this element of skill to it and patterns. Like, it wasn't just a button masher. It was like, okay, like, this is what you got to do. You got to stick, you got to move, you got to look for the tell. Here are combinations that work for this guy, but it's not going to work for that guy. This guy's going to come at you like this, and if you hit bald bullet right the right time in the gut, down he goes. It was just such a cool game. And to this day, and viewers out there, if you ever know anybody without a game genie that successfully beat Mike Tyson, I want to hear about it, because I have to this day never met someone without some sort of enhancement beat Mike Tyson. I made it to Mike Tyson once. I actually beat Super Macho Man once and went to Mike Tyson, and then you get the code. Yeah. I must have tried 100, 200, 300 times. Never beat the guy. He was unstoppable, but yeah, man, Punch Out.
I want to tell you something, and I'm embarrassed about this. Never played Punch Out until I got the Raspberry Pi.
Really?
Never. It was never a part of my childhood.
There's no violence in Britain.
Yeah.
Well, no violence.
That's right.
Games is probably bad.
Yeah. Well, Mike Tyson raped the woman, so you're not allowed to use his name, and you can't use Punch.
Do we know that he did?
And Out isn't very.
He did time, so he must have been guilty.
And Out isn't very welcoming, so the game was probably just called In.
Speaking of Mike Tyson and tying it back to Street Fighter 2, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? Balrog, the black boxer there in Japan was M. Bison, which they ended up switching around because I guess Mike Tyson's lawyers or whatever, they didn't like it. That's a bit of a.
There were a few wink and nudges. Fei Long was clearly Bruce Lee.
Oh, for sure.
There were a few little, but I mean, who was Johnny Cage, right? Van Damme, Bloodsport. Throwback to Bloodsport, but Jake. Well, here it is, folks.
We're going to number one.
You are about to get our favorite video games each.
I don't know with that table there. See, I'm getting all excited because I'm going to talk about my favorite game here. So,
okay, carry on.
Okay. Thank you.
Just Jake, please. There's one thing that people might not know about 80s Heat. I'm what you call the middleman. You're going to have Jake. Jake's going to knock this thing over. Ian's going to lose his mind. And I'm going to have to console Ian, tell Big Jake it's okay. It's a lot of work on me. So please, if not for Ian and his collection, for my sanity, please don't knock anything over.
I will not knock anything over. So my favorite game, and I spent, holy cow, probably half of my freaking childhood playing this one game. It's Final Fantasy, the original game, Final Fantasy. It's kind of a role-playing game, and that's one where you start the game and you get to pick 4 characters. You can pick the fighter, the thief, you can do a black wizard that casts spells that hurt people, and you pick a healer, whatever. There's a whole bunch of different options that you can pick.
Now, is this I don't want to mess this up like last week. When you say a black wizard, do you mean a dark warrior or of the ethnicity?
No, it wasn't an African-American wizard. Okay. It was just that he wore black stuff and his magic would cause damage. He wasn't a healer. But this game, and did you guys ever play this game?
Yeah,
you might not have.
Which system were you playing on? The NES.
The original.
I've never played a Final Fantasy game in my life.
Nope. Well, it's a turn-based game.
I've only ever played the original.
It's a turn-based game. So, when you look at it now, it seems pretty ridiculous because you would pick what everybody was going to do, and then they'd all take turns. And so, if you picked that your fighter was going to hit the guy with the sword, then he'd move forward, he'd step forward, and go, bop, bop, bop. And then it would just randomly, based on the sword that he had, say how much damage the guy took. So I'm getting dangerously close to like fucking Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, but it wasn't. Yeah. The battles were based off of that turn-based strategy, and I loved it at the time, but combat has definitely evolved since then. And those turn-based strategy games, I don't even know if they exist anymore. Probably not, because it's all Call of Duty now. But I spent a good chunk of my years playing that game.
It's a Final Fantasy.
You're
number one.
Game.
Wow.
Fair play.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming, but yeah, cool.
Me, big dog.
It's right here. Super Mario 64. Yeah. My favorite game of all time, bar none. I've completed this several times.
120 stars.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I've completed this to its entirety multiple times, and it's just, again, and it's pure nostalgia for me. Like that when I first got, if you look at those graphics now, they look very dated.
Boxy.
But at the time, they were like, what the hell? Mario in 3D?
Yeah.
Right? And the worlds that you watched, and it's like that kind of open world roaming around it, that was brand new.
Unheard of. Yeah.
And the music. Let's go. And then that water level, that Dire Docks.
When you're going under the water. Yeah.
The gigantic eel, and oh man, like that game was just perfection. Yeah. It was perfection.
No debate.
And I bought it again recently on the Nintendo Switch, and played it again, and the graphics are just tweaked a little bit, but it's still kind of that
not
blocky.
Enough to take away, I found.
No, but I wouldn't want it to look like brand new. I like it looking like that, because it takes me back to where I was, and when I was 16 years old, and I got that Nintendo 64, and I spent so much time on that thing. It was that and GoldenEye. Those two games, GoldenEye was amazing. But yeah, my favorite game of all time, I would say Super Mario 64, without question.
I gotta say, as I hit number one, I'm surprised nobody said Mario Kart.
Well, it's a good game.
That original Mario Kart, that original Mario Kart revolutionized games, and it
was phenomenal when you were in two-player, but just to play it on your own, it was.
Is that your pick?
No, but that sort of segues in, and that's why it's a bit of a cop out. But I think you'll find it okay. I'm just kind of going with a Mario et al.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Super Mario franchise is just, to me, it's untouchable. When I got that Pi, I went to Super Mario 1, and I played it. And I won it. And then what did I do? I went to Super Mario 2. Then I went to Super Mario 3, Mario Kart, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, Dr. Mario. The Mario franchise is so awesome. And
greatest franchise? Is that fair to say?
I don't know who
in video game history.
I would argue.
I could say I would get behind that.
I would argue that Super Mario is the world's most famous animated character. Mm-hmm. I'd argue it. There's going to be people that are going to say, "Oh, what about Homer Simpson? What about some anime character, Mickey Mouse?" I know. I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying, man, he's in the conversation.
Oh yeah.
And particularly Mario 3 for me, because I never owned it.
Really?
So every time I played Super Mario 3, it was a treat. Mm. And just the way they debuted it. They debuted the game through a movie. And people would thank you.
Welcome.
I remember you watched the movie The Wizard, and someone would say through the grapevine, because again, we talked about this last time, there's no spoilers back in that day.
Yeah.
So then people would be like, yeah, I went and watched The Wizard.
The work whistle.
And there was frickin' Mario 3, and you're like, what? Mm-hmm. And you think about these games, right? Okay, we've got an idea. It's going to be a stout, slightly overweight plumber. He's going to go into a sewer, and he's gonna touch a leaf, dress like a raccoon, and be able to fly.
Yeah, just shaking his tail a little
While
bit.
shaking his
We're
tail.
on a hell of an acid trip with the freaking-
You'd be like, that
kind of
sounds
stuff.
horrible, but
Lightning in a bottle.
it's lightning in a bottle, and like the colors, like there's a Mario game is so vibrant, and there's just something positive about Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, like when I play Mario, there's just kind of an overall happy kind of vibe to Mario, and I like that. I like to escape to video games. I think probably most of us play video games now as adults.
Mm-hmm.
We're not playing it because, this is my opportunity to be a wizard and a warlock and save the world. Right? We're not living vicariously through the characters anymore. But it's a release.
Yeah.
And I just find like nothing takes me to that place than good old-fashioned Mario.
That's right.
I think Mario is just, I think that the franchise is just utterly perfect. Yeah. They put out that movie this year.
Oh,
and
it's golden.
You know what? They just gave people what they wanted.
Yeah.
And I love that. And we've spoken about that, right? Mm-hmm. About movies that try and shoehorn things in, political things, and all these types of things that, okay, you know what? Sometimes I just want to watch Mario fight a bad guy.
Yeah.
And all the characters were good. I wasn't disappointed with a single character. I loved how Bowser was portrayed.
Yeah.
I loved how Peach was portrayed. I loved Mario. I loved Luigi. Awesome. Mario has never put a foot wrong for me in any game I've ever played. I even liked Super Mario Sunshine.
What about Super Mario 2? That was kind of the
redheaded
step. That was the redheaded stepchild.
That to me was one.
Series.
Yeah, that was one of the weakest ones.
Yeah.
For sure.
But the thing about Mario 2 is it was never meant to be Mario. It was never meant to be Mario 2, and then they just decided to franchise it.
Oh, okay.
But Mario 2 did give us some characters that endured, right? Bob-omb stayed. The Shy Guys stayed.
What's the one that
Pokey
shot
stayed.
the egg out? It's
Birdo.
Yeah.
It was called Ostro originally, and then they changed it to Birdo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it definitely left its legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, in the grand theme of Mario now, it kind of stands out as a little bit different.
Yeah.
But on its own, I still
It's
enjoy
like
it.
Legend of Zelda with Link. The second game was fucking impossible. Link?
I never enjoyed that second game.
It wasn't as good as the original.
The Adventure of Link, no.
Those Link games were, I mean, that's a whole conversation right there. Those were great games too, but we only get to pick three.
Yeah,
pick three we did, and now we got some more tough decisions.
Well,
Ian's got something.
Before I say that, I'll just go my 3 80s games, just to keep it 80s themed. So, but I'm just gonna. But
he gave himself extra.
But I'm just gonna go really quick. So in number 3 spot would be Mega Man 2, because I freaking love these games. All of the Mega Man games.
I've never seen that cover art before.
Really?
Yeah, never seen that.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
Mega Man's very cartoonish,
European.
Right?
Yeah, it's kind of different. But the music in that, like Dr. Wily's stage and
best soundtracks.
The music's just
the music is great.
In number 2 place, you just mentioned it,
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda.
There it is.
And what I love about this is the gold cartridge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
So amazing.
That was a big deal.
And then in number 1 spot, that's why I have this here.
Fair
Super
enough.
Mario 3. Yeah, so those are my top 3 80s
picks.
games.
Friends,
I'm back.
Yeah, okay. Let's get into it.
the tournament.
The tournament, man. I think we need a very quick recap of the rules, which I'll just do super quick. Tournament rules. 1, must be an 80s human character. Fictional human character. 2, must be mortal. We don't have any immortals. We don't have any vampires. Any people with special powers. No Superman.
There's no vampires?
No vampires. No.
That
it's got to be. That sucks. Yeah, I love it. 3, no.
Drive a stake through my heart with that one. King of the dad joke.
Dad
folks.
jokes, yeah.
King of the dad jokes. Don't cross me.
Oh boy.
Whew.
Can we turn off his camera and mic?
Oh,
Let's do that. 3.
all right.
No enhancements except PEDs. So steroids are good.
Yeah,
They're
steroids
good.
are good.
We're good. We're good to juice.
What about
We can get
garlic?
on the gear.
Oh, no, well, it doesn't. You can wear garlic if you want. But
Because
there's no
of the
vampires.
4, it's inside an octagon cage. We're limiting the movement of the characters to inside an octagon cage. 5, it's a fight to the death. And 6, no weapons.
No weapons.
Boom. Let's get into it.
Yeah, fight to the death. You're going into a casket.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, like a vampire.
Right. So who we got? Which division is this?
Today, friends, we embark upon a new division.
Oh,
We will begin the first round. What you mean, Randy Savage? Oh, yeah! Miss Elizabeth, I'm gonna tell you about a little tournament we got. It's gonna be Martin Riggs from Lethal Weapon. Just a side note, it's low-hanging fruit. I'm not going into it, but everybody loses their minds. Die Hard, a Christmas movie.
No,
but nobody.
silence.
No, we're not doing it.
No,
but I'm just saying, isn't Lethal Weapon the same shtick? Just saying, folks. If one is, what the other is. Martin Riggs, Lethal Weapon.
Yeah. And
Mad Max. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the battle of the Gibsons.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and I'll level with you. I'm a big Mel Gibson fan. I think he's a fantastic actor. Yeah. He hasn't put a foot poorly in many movies for me. Big Mel Gibson fan. And one of his characters is going out in round one.
Well, that's fair because he's fighting himself.
He is fighting himself.
Well, you despise that first movie, hey?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Is that what this is based off of, the first movie? It can...
No, it's just during the 80s.
Just
Just during the 80s.
Right?
Yeah, because that was the 80s. Yeah,
oh, my gosh. Okay, folks, we've talked about this. We talked about this privately. We said to Jake on the group chat, this is the exact question he asked a couple days ago on the group chat. Well, can it be all of the Mad Maxes, or can it be just... it has to be the Gibson version. You can't bring in the Tom Hardy version.
No, I'm not talking about the Tom Hardy. I'm talking about Thunderdome.
Anything Mad Max.
Yeah, so
Mad Max, yes. It's like Rocky. We're not saying that you can only encompass Rockies 3 and 4. Rocky carried from the 70s to the 80s, so you can include everything. If it breaches into the 90s, you can include it. So long as the character had some sort of span in the 80s.
We're speaking the same language.
Yes.
That was an unnecessary rant.
Speaking
the same language.
You've asked it 3 times.
Yeah. Well, I know not Tom Hardy. I never assumed Tom Hardy would be.
Back me up on this. Yeah. He's asked this.
I'm just keeping out of this one. Are you not used to it by now? I'm giving up. Like you know that Simpsons episode where like Homer's just like it focuses in on his brain and you get like an X-ray of his brain and there's that monkey with the fucking symbols.
You know what I was thinking of? That's true too. It's like when he walks up to Lisa and he goes, "Lisa, it's like David versus Goliath. Only this time, David won." And then it goes to Lisa's brain and she's like, Yes.
I'm going to hit you guys. I'm going to hit you
guys. Just let it go. Just let it go.
I'm hitting you guys with some Jake.
Oh, boy. Okay, so Martin Riggs versus Mad Max. Who's to go first?
I think it's your turn.
You want me to go first? Yeah, you know what? I'm happy with that because I'm a quick hitter today.
Okay, cool.
I'm a quick hitter. Martin Riggs. Do you want to know why? I hate Mad Max.
It's not about whether you like the movie or not. It's about who would win in a fight in an octagon.
Mad Max. So here at 80s Heat, we watched the first Mad Max movie. And I stood up, threw my finger in the air, and I proclaimed it my least favorite movie in the history of 80s Heat. Now here's a little fun fact you guys might not even know. I went, this was about a year ago, I plugged in the one with Tina Turner.
Yeah, that's
Beyond Thunderdome.
Thunderdome.
And I only made it 30 minutes.
What?
As this is the drizzling shits. And I turned it off again. I have turned off one movie that I've paid for on like a Shaw on Demand kind of a thing. Because if I pay the $5, I'll sit through anything.
You're watching it, yeah.
And I had to turn off the Tom Hardy one. Look,
really?
Look, I get it.
I like that.
I get it.
It was just okay.
I'm in the minority here, right? I'm in the minority. I accept that. This entire world loves Star Wars. I can't say Star Wars sucks because it doesn't. Everybody loves it, but just
I hate it.
Something about me just never enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And Mad Max, whether I'm watching the old ones, the new ones, anything, there's just something about those movies that I wholeheartedly don't enjoy. So there's a bias there. I'll admit that there's a bias. I don't find the character, particularly in the first one, which is really the only one I can go off of, because I never finished the second one. he didn't strike me as all that tough. He was good at driving a car and he had a gun. But Martin Riggs kind of had that like old school resiliency grit to him. To be honest, I don't know if Martin Riggs has a long shelf life in this tournament, but he's taken this one for me, and I'll let you two guys.
How about that fight scene at the end?
Of what?
Of Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
it was great.
Yeah.
All the cavalry arrived.
I know.
And he's like, no, stay back.
I know.
We're doing this old school.
No, he's a great character. He's a badass. He's a scrapper. He's not skilled in any particular type of discipline. He's kind of that throwback, right? Like you had your Arnold type characters that were just jacked to the nines doing superhuman stuff. You had your martial arts characters that could just do crazy athletic stuff. And then you sort of had those John McClane, Martin Rigg type characters that were just, okay, I've been on the streets. I know what to do. I've been there. I've done that. I can take a punch. I like that. I like the character. I think he's scrappier. I think if they get into an actual fight, I don't think it's very quick. I don't think it's very long. I think it's quick. Martin Riggs, that's my vote. You guys take it away.
1-0, Martin Riggs. Right, who's next?
Well, you can go.
You want me to go?
You've got all the facts. You've probably written it down and done some research.
Of course Ian has.
Consulted Wikipedia.
Of course Ian has notes. Okay, so Mel versus Mel. Mad Max, his background, he's an ex-cop turned kind of vigilante, I guess. Martin Riggs, his background is ex-special forces turned cop. So he's special forces.
Already sounds better to me. Better movie, too.
Yeah.
Watchable.
I've put here, like, and I'll talk about Mad Max a little bit first. Like, his battle IQ is excellent. In battle IQ is an important part of a fight. It's excellent. In Beyond Thunderdome, he has a cage fight with a guy called Blaster. Blaster's like
ends up being special needs.
I knew you were gonna pick up on that. He's a gimp looking dude, but he's quite a big imposing looking unit. But he has this like iron mask thing on, right? So Max bounces up. They're on those like bungees, right? And he bounces up to the top of the cage to grab a spear, and he uses it to cut Blaster's bungees, so to limit his movement, right? So that's good. But then as well, I don't know because I've not watched the whole movie in a long time, but he finds a whistle and he blows it, and he finds out he knows that this Blaster doesn't like noise, and he blows this whistle and like messes him up to the point where Max can then pick up this gigantic, ridiculous, cartoonish mallet, and then he just starts smashing Blaster around the head because he's got this iron like mask thing.
Sounds like weapons and whatnot, but whatever.
Yeah, but I'm talking about battle IQ. So he's weakened him, like he's taken out the bungees, he's outmaneuvered him to cut his bungees, to restrict his movement. Then he's used the weapon to kind of...
All would be unuseful in the octagon.
Yeah, but it's the point of his battle IQ. That's all I'm saying.
And he doesn't smash the poor fellow with
so when so when his mask comes off, he realizes he's like a Downs kid. And that's Blaster.
That's Blaster. Yeah,
this is Blaster. So when he sees Blaster's cute
really
face,
strong, though.
he's like, oh, I don't want to smash that guy. So then he goes easy on him. So I just thought that was a fun thing to know.
So he uses weapons and doesn't have killer instinct.
It doesn't have a killer instinct. No,
that's good.
But battle IQ for Martin Riggs, excellent. He uses every part of his body as a weapon. I'm about to go into Martin Riggs here.
Okay.
So he has, in the first movie, he has a hand-to-hand fight with Gary Busey's character, Mr. Joshua.
What do you say, Jack? Would you like a shot at the title? Don't mind if I do.
Now, Mr. Joshua is quite a big unit, and he's a bit of a psychopath. And there's that bit, he's got a really high pain tolerance. There's that bit where his boss there holds like a flame under his like
Is
a
that
lighter.
the guy from Lionheart?
Gary Busey?
No, Mr.
He's
Joshua.
the buttered sausage
Mr.
guy.
Joshua, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. So Mr. Joshua, so he's got high pain tolerance, like he doesn't really react to this flame burning his skin kind of thing. So Martin Riggs goes one-on-one with him at the end. But we see Riggs, he's not, I kind of disagree with you in a little bit. He's not just a scrapper. He's a very skilled martial artist. We see him throw crescent kicks which connect, right? And if you've ever thrown a crescent kick, or
have you thrown a crescent kick?
I have thrown a crescent
kick.
Have
you?
Yeah.
Crescent kick.
When did you throw a crescent kick?
In my pro wrestling days, Jacob.
So what's a crescent kick? I need a demonstration of a
you've got, you've got like an inside crescent kick and like an outside crescent
kick. Is it like going like this?
Yeah, that's an outside crescent kick. And then an inside one is coming inside, right?
So is that an effective move?
An effective move? But depending on how you hit it. But they can be quite hard because you're telegraphing them, right? Because they come a long way around.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You're telegraphing it.
So. Yeah, so he manages to hit one and connect, and that's impressive to me. He gets him square in the face. Guess
you probably don't usually connect.
But we see him throw these kicks. We see him throw punches. We see him throw elbows. He throws a jumping knee strike at Mr. Joshua.
Yeah. Seems like scrapping to me.
And he uses like jiu-jitsu as well. Like he goes for an armbar at one point, right? And Mr. Joshua manages to wriggle out of an armbar. Then Joshua picks up a weapon because he can't beat Riggs fairly because he's just outmatched him. So then Riggs gets thrown from the peanut gallery there. He's got Murtaugh and all the other cops because
a bunch of cops just
like Jake said, he alluded to it earlier. Riggs wants a fair fight. It's like, no, you stay the hell back.
It was a cool scene.
So but then Joshua gets this weapon. So then someone throws Riggs like a side-handle baton, like a tonfa, and then it's like, right, come on. And he beats him with that to the point where Joshua drops his weapon, and then Riggs just gets rid of that, and he's like, right, fisticuffs time, right, which is amazing. And then, so he wants a fair fight, so he's got that warrior mentality, right? Murtaugh wants to get involved. He keeps on, let me get him kind of thing, but Riggs is like, just back off kind of thing, right? And then he finishes Mr. Joshua off with like a triangle choke. And that was before people knew what a triangle choke was. So this guy is showing some like wrestling, some jiu-jitsu, some boxing. There's a bit where he has like a boxer stance.
Yep.
He's throwing crescent kicks, jumping knee kicks. This guy's skilled.
He's got his
and he's ex-special forces. You could, in fact, say that he has a lethal weapon.
Ooh. Yeah.
So, in conclusion, for me, we've got both guys that are about. We've got to assume that are about the same height and reach and strength.
Well, they're the same person.
It's the same person, yeah, right.
Their attributes will be very similar.
But you know how like you can get wrestling stats, but we have to assume that they're kind of the same. Conditioning, like I would have assumed, like Max was in slightly better shape because I don't think we ever saw him smoke cigarettes, and Riggs is like always smoking.
He was post-apocalyptic. His nutrition would have been terrible.
Yeah. Like, but when you see Riggs go in that fight particularly, like he's very fit, very agile. He doesn't gas out easily. Iron Will, they're probably something about the same with the Will, just because of the way Max like handled Blaster and the way he's like getting away from him, and like he's got that will to win kind of thing, right? And this is another thing as well, like Riggs is suicidal, but when it comes down to a fight, like his animal defense instincts come out. Because it's like, what is he going to do? Is it, like if it's in that life or death, is he going to be like, oh, finally, that someone's going to put me out of my misery? But no, like when he's in a fight with Mr. Joshua, like it's like, no, fuck, let's go, and I'm going to win.
Yep, good point.
That comes out, right? You know, battle IQ, Max, like we said, he finds ways other than his fists and feet, but Riggs seems to be better with his fists and his feet. He is that lethal weapon, right? And Max, we know, to your point earlier, we know he can't use weapons, and Riggs prefers not to use weapons. The winner for me, obviously, Martin Riggs. I just think he's too skilled. 2-0, Martin Riggs.
Yep.
Well, Jake, there's a chance to make it a clean sweep or compel a case.
You guys have imparted a lot of facts and knowledge on the group here.
You could sway someone.
Well, no, I'm in agreement, guys.
Hey.
I don't have a ton to add here, and like it's the same actor, different characters, different day and age. One is post-apocalyptic. One is like current day. He's a police officer. Both had big fight scenes with a huge audience. I mean, Max was in a cage fighting that poor fellow Blaster who was, he was a hell of a fighter, but...
Oh, he could go. Yeah, he could go.
Yeah, not the sharpest.
Big imposing dude. And,
but then Riggs is fighting with an audience of police officers in a helicopter up top. Like everybody's there watching while he's having a fair fight with that guy. And I think they say like the duty officer was on his way but wasn't there yet. So not sure I was going to write up that police report when that's
no, that would be quite.
Anyways,
it was the 80s. You'd get away with shit like that.
Yeah. So I mean, very similar circumstances. I would say Max, and based on Max's character, defaults to fast driving and weapons and firearms, and that's just part of his shtick in the movie. It's not hand-to-hand combat. Whereas Martin Riggs, police officer, has a much different background, like you said. Is better hand-to-hand combat fighter, and their stature is the same. Like it's the same actor, it's just different characters. So I think it's Riggs for sure. That's an easy win. So this was an easy one.
Clean sweep, 3-0.
Clean sweep.
Yeah.
And Mad Max was the good shit. I like
that first movie was terrible.
I think that's the worst movie that was ever made. The original Mad Max. If anybody thinks otherwise, throw it in the comments. But
what is the worst movie ever made, in your opinion? Throw it in the comments.
I think Mad Max, the original.
Mad Max.
I liked Thunderdome.
It's up there. Trying to think of we have
worst movie ever made. That's a whole other podcast.
That is. We could almost do that. I mean, Halloween Ends is up there.
Oh, don't do it. Don't get me started. That's yeah. But that's upsetting. Anyway, we best wrap this up. With match 1 of the Randy Savage division out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, because we've got Halloween Heat to get to, and we have 2 movies we're going to be watching because it's Halloween season. We're going to be watching American Werewolf in London, absolute classic, and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
I would like the record to show that I did not vote for Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
No, I think that was John's suggestion.
I'm uncomfortable sitting with a group of men watching Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. It's going to be like Jake playing pinball all over again.
Oh, boy.
But we're a democracy. We're a democracy here in 80s.
Yeah, I don't think there's...
I want to put something on these sheets before the end.
But I rented that movie, Elvira, because it's not in my collection. I don't care for it.
You rented it?
I rented it from Movie World in Stony Plain. Oh, I'll just give a shout out to Joe, Movie World in Stony Plain. It's like a Blockbuster, but better.
So like an actual old
It's an old school.
That's awesome.
And video and DVD store. And there's like collectibles in there and everything. But he's got some really he's got everything.
No way.
And if he doesn't, he'll find it for you.
Respect.
So Joe, just a quick shout out to Movie World in Stony Plain. It's we'll all have to go at some point.
I missed the old school. I got to check that out.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in.
But you could spend hours in there.
I'm in.
There's thousands and thousands of movies. And I asked about the Blob. He's got the Blob as well.
Oh
yeah.
That's
and that's
We're
a
watching
DVD that you just never see.
We're watching that.
Sunrise Records or whatever, right?
Absolutely terrifying.
But he's got some. I picked up Terrifier 2, going on a bit of a thing here, but Terrifier 2 is like a recent horror movie that I love. And in Sunrise Records, that was like $20-something. Picked it up there for like $12.99. I'm like, sold.
Oh, no way.
Boom.
Okay.
And he gave us a massive free bag of popcorn for 80 seats. So thanks, Joe. Appreciate it, man. Okay. So with that, we're gonna sign off, I guess.
Okay. See you at the next one.
Yeah, guys, if you like content like this, drop us that like. Feel free to comment below. Like I mentioned earlier, we do like it when you get engaged with us and school us on stuff. It's awesome. We love the engagement. So comment, subscribe.
I apologize for offending anyone. It probably won't be the last time.
It definitely won't be the last time. It definitely won't be the last time. Of that, we can all be sure. Guys, 80 seat.
80 seat.
80 seat.
See you in the next one, guys. Take care.
80 seat. 80 seat. Friendship, lots and camaraderie.